It's official as official can be. FIFA 23 is now coming to Stadia. If you gazed over conversations months prior to this news, you would have sworn EA abandoned Stadia altogether. Not the case. Why was this even believed? Well, see as Stadia Rant, why you got it all wrong about FIFA 23 and the platform in general. It's STO Daily, baby. Let's get into this one. What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K of PNTS Network and StadiaDosage back again with another STO Daily. Can you do us a huge favor before we get into this one? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please, so you know when we're dropping these doses. We appreciate all of y'all straight up. Y'all know the deal, y'all know the reason, and by now, y'all should know the slogan. We are not too proud to ask. All right, so with no further ado, let's get right into today's topic. The announcement. All right, so it's official, people. They just announced, EA that is, when I say they, just announced FIFA 23. There was a kickoff trailer that went off on YouTube. We talked about it, reacted to it, and for our members, so definitely check that out, and you'll get to see how this video was made too, some cool stuff. But you get to select your platform that you want to pre-order the game on, and as you can see, one of the platforms is Stadia. That's awesome. Now, the game is coming September 30th, 2022. And then there's that hype promotion involved as well, which I believe is going to be all part of the Stadia version of the game. All right. So let's move on from this, right? Let's talk about my thoughts on this coming to Stadia and why this is a good thing. FIFA 23 represents the biggest game, sports game that is, in the world. Now, Stadia did have an opportunity to have to have Madden and FIFA on there the last 2 or 3 iterations, I believe, last 2 iterations of Madden, and now the last 3 iterations of FIFA. And when Madden wasn't announced day and date for the platform, it made a lot of people upset. And they thought that something was awry, something was going wrong with the EA Stadia relationship. But it's very clear, and it has always been very clear to us, that there were signs that maybe Madden wasn't doing what Stadia needed to do. Now, hear me out. When you look at gaming, mainstream gaming, there are a few things that are a must. You gotta have Fortnite, right? And Call of Duty. And you gotta have Madden and FIFA, right? Madden if you're in the States, and then FIFA globally. You gotta have those games, right? Because those are the biggest games with the biggest staying power, you know what I'm saying, for mainstream gamers. But what you got to understand with mainstream gamers is that they're a particular demographic. Stadia and cloud gamers are of a different demographic. They're not just disenfranchised gamers that react the same to all the games that are out there in the mainstream. They are disenfranchised gamers that necessarily don't care about everything coming day and date. They don't feel like that they got to play every single title. You know what I'm saying? They're a little bit more casual in a lot of ways than the casual mainstream gamer, right? So a situation to where Madden is a must-have on a mainstream platform, a platform like Stadia could see a scenario where Madden wasn't pulling in the numbers that justify the investment in order to get the game in there. And it also wasn't cascading down and and through its catalog and getting people to play other games. It wasn't bringing gamers in a lucrative fashion to the platform, maintaining them on the platform, and helping grow the platform altogether. That's why we want Fortnite on here, right? And that's why we want those other games, because the thought process isn't just that these people are going to play Fortnite and Call of Duty if it's on Stadia and go away. The thought process is they're going to play those games, look through the catalog, and then there'll be more gamers on Outcasters and other games that we like to play on Stadia. And that's the plausible scenario, right? Well, the problem is, if you're investing all this money, maybe tens of millions of dollars, to get said game on here to do that, and said game isn't doing that, and you end up in the red instead of in the black to keep getting this game year after year, just for the sake of having it because the mainstream platforms have it, then that's a problem, right? Now, XCloud, I think they get Madden later in the year via the Vault. I don't think they get it day and date. They get it later in the year via the Vault, whenever it goes in the Vault. GFN doesn't have Madden, and I don't think any other cloud platform has Madden. And guess what? They're doing just fine, right? They're doing fine. They're doing okay amongst their peers. They're all right. You know what I mean? They're still kicking and living, right? FIFA, on the other hand, is a huge game. FIFA, we could see it showing statistics and data that it is not only bringing more people to the platform, but those more people are cascading through the catalog and they're playing more games, signing up for Stadia Pro and so forth. So it's a lot more lucrative investment to get FIFA than it would be Madden. We've seen signs of that. I bought 21 and 22. I still only play 21. I'm not even interested in playing 22 because there's not that much evolution between them. But when you look at the number of players or the number of seasons that were in Madden, now it's been a long time since I've checked this, but I remember it was like maybe a couple of months ago when I checked it. I think Madden 21 had 50,000 seasons created, and Madden 22 had 60,000, only 10,000 more seasons created, right? And again, who's to say that those additional 10,000 people are playing anything but Madden? If those extra seasons are attributed to actual 1v1 more people. So you're not seeing a bump in the attraction that Madden is supplying, opposed to what evidently you're seeing in FIFA 23, the fact that they invested in it and brought it back to the platform. It just shows you the shrewd nature that they will deal with and not just bring games to the platform just for the sake of having them. If they're not seeing success with the title or with the franchise, they're likely not going to move forward with it unless there's serious, conversations about it. And when you look at FIFA and Madden, every time they're polled, it's like 7-1 or 6 or 5-1, or however you want to call it. Or one poll in particular, rather, they asked, what do you want to sell on, FIFA or Madden? And 70% of them said FIFA. Wasn't even close. You know what I mean? So what had to have happened here, without being in the boardroom for this one, what had to have happened is Madden simply didn't do its job number-wise for the platform, and FIFA did. And where it makes sense for the platform in these early years, where it will move the trajectory up feasibly, they will continue to invest. They will try things, new things. You got to. It's a new innovative tech and platform. But they're not going to keep making the same mistakes and hitting their head up against the wall, like the wall's not there. They made the pivot in 2020 when they realized that they weren't going to reach their milestones by their current game plan. They pivoted then, and then it looks like they pivoted again when it came to Madden, because Madden wasn't doing the job that they needed it to do per the money they were investing in. Very shrewd activity going on over at Google Stadia. They're not going to keep running mistakes over and over and over again. All right? So that's how I feel about FIFA coming opposed to Madden. And I prefer Madden as a gamer, but I can understand it. These are the early years. Nobody is going to go and spend a quadrillion or trillion, I'm just making up numbers here, but they're not going to spend that much money on a game for a business with a 1% ceiling. Nobody's doing it. Nobody is. All right. So those are my thoughts on FIFA coming opposed to Madden. But there's a bigger story to tell here. Why so many got it wrong about FIFA and about the platform altogether? Again, as we said earlier, people were under the mind state that EA gave up on Stadia. They were done with Stadia forever. And Stadia was just letting contracts wind down. They were not getting AAA games any longer because they were about to sunset. They didn't care about the longevity of the platform anymore. They were just giving up and they were just sunsetting the platform, and they just weren't telling you yet. And the sad thing about that is, as ridiculous as that looks and that sounds now, a lot of people believe that. And I understand a lot of people outside of the community that are familiar with Stadia, but inside too, and at some of the highest regions, believe that motif. And it all leads back to one thing. I've talked about this numerous times recently. It all falls back to our belief that KillByGoogle, the infamous Twitter page or website, was a legitimate source engaging how Google is handling Stadia. Now, if you're not familiar with KillByGoogle is a site that lists all of the projects and things that Google just dismantles, dissolves, or whatever, right? And a lot of times what people don't realize that site doesn't show you in context is Google may start off with an idea in a project, and as time goes on, they look at it and they say, okay, what are the finer points of these smaller projects or these cool innovations that these focus groups have built on? Okay, what works, what doesn't work, and they tear them apart and they implement them into other things. So there's a lot of things that used to be called one thing, but then they've been upgraded and polished and, put together in a different way. And now they're called something else. So that's what KillByGoogle doesn't tell you. Another thing is that Google doesn't hack paid for services all like that. Okay. And this is the paid for service Stadia is. So you take that into consideration along with the long diatribes of falseness that the KillByGoogle account has on Twitter alone. And it just proves to you why they are quote unquote false prophets when it comes to anything Google. But what has happened is there have been many of us in the community that wanted to see Stadia on the main stage already, because it's not that cloud gaming isn't capable enough to giving you some benefits that can buck up against mainstream gaming, right? In totality, but it's that the mainstream gaming community isn't ready for it. And we don't understand that sometimes as a cloud community. We think if it makes sense to us, it's just a matter of just talking about it to everybody else. Everybody doesn't feel that way. I just had a conversation over Twitter with my homie Jay Wags. He's a neighbor of mine. He only lives like a few moments away from me. And he's having a hard time with Stadia and other cloud gaming platforms to where I'm like, we're pinging from the same towers. I have a great experience, particularly with Stadia, more than anything, even on 4G. And he's just resigned to the fact that it's not going to work. Now, I don't know if it's his phone. I don't know what it is, but it's something on his end. But he's not going, there is no convincing him otherwise. That's just the way that it is. And we don't, again, good friend of mine, we've been on YouTube, practically around the same time. I love him. This is good brother of mine. And we both love gaming. We love a lot of things in gaming, but when it comes to cloud gaming, his mind is just set on it. And that is the majority of gamers out there. So it's okay to be ahead of the curve. That's what we are. A lot of people aren't ahead of the curve. But we can't reckon with that, and we think that cloud gaming must immediately be on par with mainstream gaming. And again, you're just punishing yourself and torturing yourself, because analysts and the people running these platforms, they all tell you otherwise. The experts are telling you otherwise, the experts in the business part of it are assuring you that it's going to take some time for psychological reasons. Yes, psychology plays a lot into this. A lot of gamers just aren't psychologically set in the mood for cloud gaming. Some think that it's silly to not want to download your games and not want to deal with that. Some thinks that it's a grand thing to spend hundreds of dollars in storage because it's in your possession, it's in your hands. It gives you something to hug and kiss. That's just how they think. And consider yourself and pat yourself on the back for being ahead of the curve. With that being said, that's why many of you got it wrong when it came to Stadia. You fell for the KillByGoogle mantra, and every time Stadia fell short or didn't get something, it was more and more of it was tagged to, oh, it's because Stadia don't care and they're winding down, opposed to understanding that this is not a mainstream platform. It has time to revamp itself and pick up from its mistakes. And simply put, the porting process was his biggest Achilles heel. All of its peers don't have the extensive porting process that Stadia has. They did, and they had to fix it. And they were making investments on that. They told you that they were putting their head down. Don't think that their silence means that they're not committed. You didn't listen. You listened to KillByGoogle instead. And I can go on Twitter right now and show you a whole diatribe of theirs where it's utterly false and it's laughable. So my message to those of you that are newer into this, you're just going to have to simply get better. You're going to have to get better at managing expectations, managing your patience, and stop trying to throw conjecture into and come up with this false fortune telling. Analyze what the business plans are and analyze the effectiveness of it amongst its peers. That's all you can do. You can give your opinion, but make sure that you state that it's your opinion and not speak in absolutes. I'm saddened by the responses that I've seen from creators and Twitter people alike in regards to Stadia and in regards to FIFA. It's no way that it's coming. The contract is over. It's silly. A lot of people have been doing this for a while and just don't know how to follow the tea leaves. All you know how to do is follow copy and paste movement. That doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you in your growth. It doesn't help your listeners in their understanding. So hopefully everybody's learned from this. Again, this is not to say that now Stadia is going to become your favorite. You're still going to walk away from this probably, a lot of you, and say, I'm still not favorable towards Stadia. But don't whiz in someone else's cornflakes that might be interested in Stadia, who it might suit their needs. Tell them what it is and what it isn't factually, and let them make up their own minds. Just do better. But that's it from your boy. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because like I always say, who cares what I think? But if you did like what I had to say, check out the links below to follow me. Those links will lead you to the Broadband Bullies, PNTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, and yes, the Stadia Dosage. With all that said, peace. Have a wonderful gaming day.